And we are live. Let me just make sure there you are. Hi. And yeah, we are live. I see it on my phone. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Eileen Carlucci, and I am the author of the upcoming book, Your New Life Starts Now. And I have an amazing guest here on Conversations with Eileen tonight, and her name is Yolanda, aka-Loni Mendez. So welcome, Yolanda. I'm so happy to have you here tonight.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being my guest, and thank you for everyone for joining in. And I'm going to tell you more about Yolanda. She's going to share some, she's a publisher of 3 books. I have so much to share about Yolanda, and interview her, and she is a powerful lady, making things happen in the world. So I cannot wait for this interview. But I just want to share a little bit about Conversations with Eileen. It's my weekly show. I'm here every week where I interview powerful female entrepreneurs who are really making their mark and impact in the world. And as you can see with my guest here, Yolanda, who is one of those incredible women and business owners. And I can't wait to get started with the interview. So Yolanda, let's just get started, or Loni, let's just get started with sharing a little bit about your journey. So you were in corporate America, and now you have 2 businesses.
Right.
The business are Global HR Concepts LLC.
Right.
And am I saying this right? Classieux Concierge LLC?
Classieux.
Classieux. I like that even better.
Right.
Which, by the way, was awarded the Angie's List Super Service Award for delivering outstanding service to its clients throughout the year,
right,
as well as 3 books, a brand newly released book, and you've been a ghostwriter. So you've helped others get their books launched. So how did you get to this point from corporate America? Share with us, corporate America.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start with the inspiration to actually leave corporate, even though I was earning a nice salary. I had done some personal development work that you and I are both familiar with, right? Yes, I had taken some courses with a company called Landmark, and I had done some self-reflection. And the biggest thing is that I noticed or realized, I distinguished through this training that I was not valuing myself. I was undervaluing myself everywhere. At work, I wasn't being paid what I was worth. And in my personal relationships, I was going the extra mile and doing way too much, just not valuing myself and not realizing my own value. And that course helped me to look into that. And that was the biggest reason. So I got out of that course and began working on a strategy for how I was going to get out of the corporate arena. But even bigger than that, and I haven't mentioned this in my last interview, and I want to share it today because it's so important. It's going to be part of my closing message to everyone who's watching this.
Okay.
I was at a point where I was really miserable, because money and salary those are not the things that make you happy ultimately. And I was so disenchanted with the things that went on in the corporate arena, like the politics and us being women and me being African-American, and just, there were glass ceilings and a lot of bureaucracy and all those things. And I was very frustrated and pretty tired of those things.
Yes.
It was actually, Eileen, to the point that I really did not want to get out of bed in the morning because I knew what I was going to face when I got to work.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So, terrible.
Yeah.
And you're so talented and have to deal with that every day, not want to get up. That's,
yeah,
it was absolutely hate that environment. You don't love your job. And
right. I really did feel that way. I felt that way. And that self-discovery process that I went through gave me the power to say, okay, how can I get out of this? I was determined. And I took that course in March of 2008. And I had already started one of my businesses and it was kind of like a side hustle at that point. And I had started that a year prior. But by May 2008, I had left my corporate job and I was 100% self-employed. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And so that was, so May 2008 to which date?
to now. I mean, I
Oh,
had
wow,
started
wow.
my,
Okay.
yeah, up
Yeah.
to today. I'm still,
Yeah.
I've never looked back since
Yeah,
then,
like you just
know?
left and that was it. And that's
I just
amazing
left.
because entrepreneurship, if you're an entrepreneur, you know how hard it is.
Right.
It really can be a roller coaster. I know that's not the best thing to say, but it's amazing if you can get to that point, because it
Yeah.
does take a while to get there. Wow.
Right.
Like how
Yeah.
incredible. And you have two business and not even just one, you have two. So
Right.
that's
It
really,
does. It takes a lot of courage. And Eileen, you and I share that we have reinvented ourselves more than once.
yes,
So
yes.
that was like the first major overhaul that I did in terms of reinventing myself. And I've pretty much turned my life around. I
Wow.
ended up living a fulfilling life that I had designed, as opposed to being at the effect of a company, you know?
Exactly. Oh, I love it. I love that, designing your life. That is incredible. Wow.
Awesome.
Wow. Yes. So you left corporate America, and then so did you start, like you started with the first business and then the second, or how did that play out with your businesses?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I had started that first business 1 year prior to doing that
Okay.
course and leaving corporate arena.
1 year
So
prior.
now,
Okay, got it.
yeah. So my exit strategy involved, my background, by the way, was in pharmaceutical industry and human resources for most of my corporate life. Okay.
Okay.
And so my exit strategy was one that I worked out an arrangement with the company that I was working for to leave them as an employee and to become a vendor and create a business to business relationship with them, doing some HR consulting.
Oh,
And
nice.
so that's how the second business got started. Initially, it was an HR consulting entity. And that's what I was doing with them. So at this point, when I left corporate, I had both companies. I had the Classieux Concierge, which I had started 1 year prior to leaving corporate. And when I left on May 2008, May 1st, that was my first day being 100% self-employed. I was operating both. And at the source of it is I wanted to use the gifts that God gave me to help other people and to make a difference, you know?
Wow. Wow. That is, I mean, really, I acknowledge you for two businesses. And did you like get like help right away, or how did you do this all yourself, or?
Well, one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to organically grow my business without getting in debt and taking out, small business loans and things like that. So I did organically grow my business. I had very little capital when I first started, and I learned a lot of things the hard way. And that brings me to the book that I wrote, not the most recent book, but the one before that, which is called Choosing All of It, Walking in Faith Down an Unknown Path. And in that book, because people are always asking me what my exit strategy was and how I left corporate, I decided to put that in writing and explain my story. But I also put some lessons learned in there, kind of like saying to people, hey, this is what you want to know before you try this at home. Because I learned a lot of things the hard way. But, Eileen, after I got out there, I realized, this is, maybe I bit off more than I could chew, right? But I gave myself the option. I said, do you want to go back to the drawing board, go back to corporate and come back later on, or do you want to keep going? And I knew for sure that if I went back, I may not ever come back out here. So I said, I've been out here. At this point, I had been out there for like 2 or 3 years on my own. And I said, I'm going to make this work. I'm not going back. I was determined.
Yeah.
I was determined.
Well, I see my friend Jennifer here, and she was in corporate America, did that same thing and started a business. You can relate, Jen, right? The corporate America. Yeah. So really, I acknowledge you for, like knowing this was not the right fit for you. And you were going after, you wanted to use your gifts. Like you said, you have these amazing gifts and you're going to use them. And starting 2 businesses like that, that's really incredible, really. So let's talk about your businesses. We're going to get to the books in a minute, but let's talk about your 2 businesses. So
okay.
What you do, how you help people in the business.
Okay. So let's start with Classieux Concierge, since I started that business first.
Okay.
So in that business for more than 10 years, I was a professional organizer who actually went out and organized people's space, kitchen cabinets, kids' toys, paperwork in the office, computer files, your calendar, your life.
Love it. Yeah.
I was organizing any and everything. And in the face of COVID-19, I transitioned that business from being an in-person organizing business to more of a remote business. So now I work with people, coach them, and work with them remotely. So I have 2-hour virtual sessions. That's one of my main products or services that I offer. And I also do some teaching. I also have a couple of courses. I have an instructor-led course that's up on Eventbrite, where I teach people how to be more organized at home and in the office. And then I have a self-paced course that's on teachable.com, so that people can, if you want to buy that one, you can kind of work at your own pace. So that business is all about virtual organizing, and it kind of funnels over into virtual assistant as well, because a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs. They're solopreneurs that can't get it all done on their own. So I end up handling some of those tasks virtually as well.
Yeah. And really that is amazing, because it's very overwhelming when you're a solopreneur and you're trying to be like everything in your company. So like what you provide is so valuable, and you're so organized and get them organized. So, and I love how you do this all virtually. So you don't go into the house at all, or
no, not anymore.
Yeah. And then you have the classes, so they can either do that, or you could, the private coaching, right?
Absolutely.
I know. I even do that with my wardrobe now, and people like, can we really do this? I'm like, yes, we can, So,
this is 2022, right?
Exactly. So we don't have to drive all over and sit in traffic. Yeah. And Jen said, I can't see. She said, ex-corporate girl. Yes, girl here. So she started her own business here, so she knows your pain, right, Jen?
All right. We can relate.
Yeah. But it's true. Like you said, you're not going back, and that's it. And you didn't.
Right.
And so, all right. So you have and then tell us about the other business.
So Global HR Concepts, like I said, in the initial years, it started out as HR consulting.
Okay.
But one of the things that I've always loved to do was write. And I started my writing journey in corporate America, because being in HR, I would write job descriptions, HR policies, standard operating procedures, manuals. So I used to do that kind of business writing in corporate. But in the face of COVID, I've also transitioned that business and stopped going out consulting in that way. And actually, it was a little bit before COVID-19 came out. I started doing other kinds of writing. So I got certified in grant writing. So I'm a certified grant writer.
Oh, wow.
I'm also a ghostwriter. So I take people's story and turn it into a book that can be published, that's worthy of being published. I write resumes, bios, press releases, business plans, all things writing. So
wow, that is incredible. So all things writing. Wow.
All things writing. And I love to write, and I help so many people that way, Yeah.
So it's not just like one, sometimes in business you have like a niche client, or that, it's just like you really help all the communities, all people in life. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's really great. So if somebody wanted to, I'll talk about both businesses, like work with you. So if they wanted to get their house organized, you would do a session, and you kind of go whichever room you're doing, or rooms, right?
Right.
And you do like a couple hours or whatever, right? The one-on-one.
Yes. Those sessions are limited to 2 hours, so that we can get the most for the client's investment. Because what I find is, if you make it longer than 2 hours, people get distracted. You're coaching
overwhelmed too.
Yeah. And they're going through stuff, and they're like, oh, look, it's when we went on vacation. And you're like, come on back, guys.
I'm doing it. I'm going through pictures and cards. I used to keep every card my kids gave my and I'm like, all right, I cannot keep all this. Like, there's a gazillions, even all the Christmas cards people sent me from like the 90s. I'm like, all right, I got to start. And then I find myself looking, you can't get organized. So I get what you mean. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So those sessions are 2 hours, and then I work with people. It comes with a little 15-minute consultation beforehand, so we can strategize and talk about what approach you're going to take at the time of the appointment,
That's awesome. And if they don't want to do that, and they want to just do it at their own pace, then they could buy the course, right? You have the course available.
Yes.
And that's all on your website? Because I know
it's all on my website.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I could share those links after I put this up, and people watch the replay or whatever. I'll put the links up for everyone.
Okay, that'd be great.
And then your other business, you have another website, right? And then that's
separate website.
anybody that needs anything writing, right? Whether it's
Right.
ghostwriting, anything,
Yeah.
they come to
Any
you.
kind of writing. And I
Any
find
kind
that
of writing.
that business, the clients of that business are a lot of entrepreneurs too, because they don't know how to write their business plan. They need help writing content for their websites, or they need a marketing plan, or they need a bio to go on their website. But what the most popular service is for that business is the ghostwriting. Because so many people, I feel like everybody has a story to tell.
They do.
Not everybody knows, they don't even know where to start.
Right, right.
So I
And
work with
really,
these-
when you write a book,
yes.
like you really are, like, you're telling a story. And, and I know, when you write a book, you're branding yourself, right? Like, I've heard everyone should really write a book, right? Whether they have a business or not, tell their story, share, and you really do brand yourself. And it's like leaving your legacy behind. So you've done this 3 times, plus help other people to do this.
Right.
So let's talk about your books, right? So I guess your 3 books are Straighten Up, 50 Simple Ways to Live a More Organized Life, and Choosing All of It, Walking in Faith Down an Unknown Path, and Nurture Your Soul. Is that another one? Inspiring Woods from My Heart to Yours? So
Yes.
it's 4.
No, 3.
3.
Yep. You said 3.
Straighten Up. Okay, got it. 3.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I know the names are long, right?
My book's, well, I'm not done. It's coming. My book is coming, but it's a long name too. So yeah.
Yeah. So
Title and subtitle, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about your 3 books, and you just released your new book, right? So that's just been newly released. So your beautiful launch party pictures.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
How exciting.
It was very exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Yeah. My 3rd book was just released in January. So we'll work from the first book was a sort of a handy reference guide that went with my organizing business it was like a collection of all the tips that I used to coach my clients on as I was getting them organized over all those years. So that's what that one is. It's a reference, a guide for getting and staying organized.
Okay.
The second book, as I mentioned before, Choosing All of It, Walking in Faith Down an Unknown Path. That book is my story. It's a book of memoirs. So it talks a little bit about my childhood, and then it goes into my corporate journey, which I started out in the corporate arena as a non-exempt clerk and worked my way up to 6 figures over the years. So, people find that pretty spectacular. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that journey.
Yeah.
Right? And then I talked about my discontent when I got to the 6 figures. It was like, is this all there is? Like, is this it?
Right. I'm working my butt off every day in an office all day, and I'm not loving what I do.
Right. And it wasn't pretty to me. And I just felt like life is too short to live that way every day, year after year. And I just refused to do it.
Yeah.
But again, in the book, I share my story of how I walked away from that, and then just shared some lessons learned with people to say, listen, if you're thinking about doing this, absolutely do it. If that is what's going to help you live a fulfilling life. But here's some things I want to share, so you don't make some of the same mistakes that I made.
Exactly.
So
see Marie too. Marie, Jennifer, and there's David. Hi, Eileen, Cheryl, and
Hi,
David
guys.
here. Hi, we're saying hello to everyone. Thank you for joining in tonight. Interviewing the lovely Yolanda-Loni, aka Loni Mendez, author of 3 books.
Right. So let's talk about the 3rd book.
Let's talk about your newly released. Yeah.
Okay. So the 3rd book is like a daily devotional. So there are 365 pages. There is a page for each day of the year. And the pages have a couple of components. They have a quote by somebody, and then they have insight from me and how I apply that to my life. And then they have scriptures from the Bible down at the bottom. So they have 3 different components. And I had a great time writing it, because what prompted me to write that book, by the way, was that on my social media and everywhere, I'm always putting out the little positive nuggets and quotes and just inspiring people, which, by the way, that is my underlying purpose that I am here for. That's the purpose that I'm on this earth, whether it's through my books, through my business, or through mentoring, coaching, all of my things that I do. At the end of the day, my purpose is to motivate and inspire people.
I love that.
I would get so many comments and likes and people saying, oh, I love the stuff that you put up. So I decided to put that stuff in a book that people can have at their bedside, and just every day you can refer to the date, you know?
Wow, that is beautiful. And that is so true about knowing your purpose, your why.
Right.
And just really those things like that inner, like that, those things you could do all the time and that they're just so natural, like, you know, time passes. If you know what those things are, right, you kind of stay in that lane and not go off. That's why you knew that corporate America thing wasn't for you. You knew what you're here to do.
Absolutely.
And that's so important. That's such a great point to make. Yes.
Yeah, it is important.
So the book came out, when was that?
It was went live January 28th.
That's right. That's around the time we talked and I saw your pictures, and that's so awesome.
Yeah.
So, and I'll make sure I put the link if anyone wants to order the book. It's called
that'd be awesome.
Nurture the Soul, Inspiring Words from My Heart to Yours.
Right.
And if anyone has any questions did I say, hey, Marie, how are you? Good evening, ladies. Marie said, good evening.
Hi, Marie.
Thank you everyone for joining. If you have any questions, please leave them in the chat. So anything else before we get to our words of wisdom for the night, which I know are going to be good because I know how much training you have had, and you're such being a teacher and a coach and like, it's just amazing, publisher and all that you do with your businesses. You're such a contribution. But anything else you want to share about your businesses, about your journey, or the books, or anything we didn't touch on?
No, I think I shared it all. So I'm anxious to get to my little words of wisdom that might help someone.
Yes, let's do it. That's the best. So so your words of wisdom in closing.
Yeah, one of the first things I want to say is that life really is short. And one of the quotes that I really love is YOLO, you only live once, right? We get to do this thing one time. And so just really put some thought into that every day. And there are so many ways that we can reinvent ourselves. You know, there are tons of ways that we can do that. And it may not be easy and it takes courage, but you deserve it. So that's one of the things I want to say first and foremost, right? The second thing I want to say is that if you are fortunate enough to discover your purpose, and some people discover their purpose when they're very young, high school, 20s, but there are some of us who we may not discover our purpose until much later in life. Like I've had clients that I've written their resumes and I'm interviewing them and saying, so what would you like to be when you grow up? Like, what is it that you want to do, so that we can tailor your resume? And you would not believe the number of people that don't really know. Yes, they have a job and they've been doing that job for 10 years, 20 years because it pays the bills, but it's not what they want to do. Right. So what I want to say is that if you know what your purpose is, if you've been fortunate enough to zone in on that and identify that, that will be the fuel that will keep you going. That is the thing that will have you in a place where you won't give up, even when it gets tough, because you know that God put you here for that. Exactly. You know, you're in the right lane, because you know when you're somewhere you just don't want to be, or a job that you're not it goes for anything. You just feel it, right? Like a relationship you don't want to be in, like you just know, right? Yep. And it's when you're in that zone, that is so great. That is so great. Thank you for that. You're welcome. Yeah. And so many people, Eileen, they just stay because it's because that's what they know. Yeah. And people are afraid of the unknown, so they won't step out and try to create something different because that's all they know, and they're afraid to let go of it. You know, it can be scary, but everything is on the other side of your comfort zone. Everything. Definitely. There's no even growth. If you do little nuggets every day, something a little every day to get you out of your comfort zone, you know? Right. Yeah. 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 Definitely. No, that is so amazing. Thank you for sharing that. You're welcome. If I have any questions. Okay. Real quick. If we have any questions, we will, in the chat, I'll tag you and we'll, sure. But yes, thank you for sharing your words of wisdom. That was amazing. And your story and about your businesses. And Marie says, question to Lonnie. Okay. How did you learn about what your purpose is? She says she's 57 and afraid to know hers. Okay. Well, I'm afraid to know mine. Right. I'm 55, Marie, and I didn't always know mine, but I think two things that can help lead you to your purpose. One is consider your gifts. Consider the things that you are really good at that you could do without looking, right?
I
Things
know,
that
I can name offhand, Marie, all the things you're good at. I know exactly what
Really?
you're good at. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so consider that, but also consider your passion. What are you passionate about?
Right.
And when you take, sometimes, a lot of times, it'll end up being the same thing. And then that's how you know that that must be it.
Exactly. Yep. All those things that you just could do in time, it's effortless, right?
Right, exactly.
Yes. Thank you for answering that question. Any
Sure.
other questions, Marie, for Lonnie? Just put them in the chat if so. Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, well, thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you, Lonnie. You're such an inspiration. I'm going to get your book. Sounds incredible.
Thank
And I really appreciate you sharing tonight. And thank you for being my guest and sharing with all of us.
Yeah, Eileen, it was awesome to connect with you. And thank you so much for having me. And guests, thank you for coming to join us this evening. I
Yes,
appreciate
thank
every last one of you.
Yes, yes. Marie says, I am okay. Okay, awesome. She said, thank you, Lonnie. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, well, keep doing what you're doing. You're making a huge
Will.
difference in the world. Thank you, Lonnie.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye all.
Bye.
Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.